Okay, sorry for the interruption. I'll wind up cutting that all out anyways. Um, okay, I was on threaded loading, and let me close this thing out. I'll cut to here. Okay, I was on threaded loading, and it basically allows me again to load stuff in the background, and that's for the container. That's why I use the container, is again to make sure that all my stuff loads quickly. All right. Eric had asked if I could kind of go over how we got to where we are. So I'm going to go ahead and open Android Studio now. Android Studio takes a minute to get started. The reason I'm opening Android Studio, though, is so that you can see how we go from the tagger, the laser tagger, the FreecoiL laser tag, how it talks via Bluetooth telemetry data to your Android phone. Kotlin then, I have a Kotlin plugin that then translates that data, that telemetry data, into something that's usable by the Godot side and sends it to it. And that all happens through Android Studio, which should be starting here in a second. You'll notice my machine is not super powerful here, but with Linux, it can do a lot without a lot of resources. Yep, there it is, starting over there. If I search for Android. Yeah, it's there. Starting up. There might be a little extra noise over my microphone as I am turned on my extra fan just to make sure I keep those processors cool. Alright, it's going to load the Android project. Which is the Godot Android plugins, which if you're on, if you're in the repository, then if you go to Android under source, that is this project. It's a Gradle project. When you start it up, it'll load as its own independent project in Android Studio, and you can load it right up. FreecoiL Kotlin is inside of it. I do have an extra one. It's called Hello Signals. That's from the Godot template, if you will, that I found. So that at some point I might make it signals based as well. But FreecoiL Kotlin, source, main, Java, FeralBytes, games, FreecoiL Kotlin, and bam, those are the KT files that have it. Alright, Android Studio loaded up. Cool tip. Yep, moving on. Go away. Alright. So with Android Studio, we have the FreecoiL plugin.kt. He wanted to see telemetry data. One of the key parts for how I made all this work, though, if I may for a second, is basically we build a quick little constructor with a secondary init that is for callbacks, and make a companion object with all of our variables and offsets for nibbles for telemetry data. And we implement the Godot required functions like onMain create and override a few of them to be able to do things like request permissions and activity results. And then got some location data in here, scrolling up, and here's our telemetry. Okay, so basically I call out to go.lib.call deferred, and I pass the instance ID and then the function I'm going to call, which in this case is the process telemetry 2, which is the upgrade one, where I pass an array of an array because Godot has a limit. It will only accept somewhere in the neighborhood of like 6 to 7 variables at a time. So if I pass an array of an array, it packs those down, and I'm only actually passing one variable, even though it's a huge amount of variables inside that because it's in an array. So I'm just passing the big array, which is like 20 some variables. That is all the different types of telemetry data. That's how I pass it to Godot. Super simple. Just call the function on that side, and it passes it right through to that FreecoiL interface.tv. how did we get there? Well, process telemetry data. Thanks a lot to Destroy on GitHub with FreecoiL, reading his recoil, when he talks about recoil on laserswarm.com. I will warn you that some parts of that wiki are incorrect. In the past, I've uploaded a document with the corrections, and I can definitely upload that again. Just some of his initial thoughts about where data was located in the large array of bytes that gets passed to you. Some of it's just a little bit off. Not much, mostly right, and I mean, he got it for what he needed. I just went a little further to get the rest of the data. All right, on to that. Basically in here, you get the telemetry characteristic value passed to you. And all of this, like, it comes through from the Bluetooth service LE implementation. Basically, this is an open source project that was implemented to FreecoiL. I then converted it to Java for myself, for my own means, which wasn't much change, and then I converted it to Kotlin for the upgraded FreecoiL version. It talks with Godot, with the talks with the laser through Bluetooth. This is also where we see like the status 133 bug, and you're trying to fix it. Famous bug that gave me a lot of problems with a lot of different Android devices. You can read through this code. You're most likely not going to be editing this code. I only really edit this code when I need to, and for doing stuff like identifying the guns. So, not a whole lot that's going to be going on in that. Most of it's going to be in the FreecoiL plugin. So, working through telemetry data, basically we have offsets, and this is how you do byte offsets in Kotlin. It's very similar to how you do byte offsets in Java, and doing bit shifting to be able to get specific parts of the data. Why are we doing this kind of bit shifting? Well, again, this is how all the telemetry is broken out, and there's a lot in here for you to read over. I'm not going to go into the specifics. It's better to read it over and kind of look at it. I've tried to make it as clear as possible, labeling things pretty correctly to what they are. There may be a few things that aren't quite right, but I have this document, which is right here. Give me a second. Oh shit. Pulling up my Google Drive right now with the sheets. It's being a little slow to be able to get to the FreecoiL stuff. There we go. Open this up. Drag it over here. So this is basically by bit broken down. So I have a byte, which is 8 bits, okay, 0 to 7. This is the way they're offset in the telemetry. It's really 7 through 0, digging left to right, first nibble on the left, second nibble on the right. Depending on how you want to talk about it, most significant versus least significant, all those different ways that you'll hear programmers talk about it. Try to make it pretty self-explanatory. And then if it's QC'd or not, most of this should all be actually checked. Yeah, actually I know the telemetry sensors good. And weapons charge, I need to double check that. Pretty sure it's correct though. I just couldn't actually verify these, so that's what it basically came down to. Because you'd have to shoot the gun. But the gun being shot would have to be shot by 2 different sources at the same exact time, or pretty close to it, to trigger sensors 1 information and the shooter 2 and shooter 1, I should say, information. So everything else is pretty good though. Also has the weapons configuration data in there. Most of that's QC'd, still working on it though. But again, all of it's in here, and I can send you that link if you need it. Share that document out. Alright, so that's talking about the telemetry data. We'll get to the right thing here. Okay. And how we get it to Godot. It's pretty simple. If you wanted to create more functions in this code, you would just go through and create the functions. So like I've done for, in here I have cellular data and GPS. So Started making location callback, location listeners, how I try new locations. I don't actually use the try new locations now. That's done in Godot again. If I can do it on Godot, I prefer to do it in Godot. It makes this a thin wrapper, which means I could actually apply this to other guns and game systems in the future. I don't know about whether or not we'll actually be doing that. Without more programmers, it's probably not going to happen anyways. But it's there. It makes it super thin, and Godot is also a thin layer, therefore built upon a thin layer. It makes them both pretty efficient. With Android Studio, in order to run Android Studio for Godot, you have to have this. When you start up the project, it should go ahead and download all the things required for the project. Which we go to settings. I have a few libraries that I depend on. Or probably a few more by the time I'm done. That's not what I want. Sorry, I'm not the best with Android Studio. Use it when I need it. Think about project structure. Yes, okay, dependencies. So if we go to FreecoiL Kotlin, alright, so we have app compatibility, core KTX for Kotlin, Espresso, JUnit, there's quite a few. So it's going to download all these, legacy support, play services, for maps and stuff, and a few other things. So download all these and install them. But there's some updates available. Don't worry about it right now. And you also need to have the basics of. No, it's not that. One sec. Yeah, don't need the virtual devices. I want there, this one. Android SDK. Need to have the current version of Android SDK with multiple API levels. I think you only actually need the one that you're currently compiling as a target, but you might also need the min. And I have several in between, so I download a bunch. It will tell you and guide you as you try to compile. For tools, definitely want the build tools. There's some updates for that stuff. You definitely want ADB, which is actually, for me, it's on Linux side, so I don't have to worry about it. A few other Android SDK tools. So once you get all that download, I won't lie, Android Studio and all of its tools is a huge download. Once you get it all downloaded, though, and get the plugin set up for Kotlin and all the stuff necessary for FreecoiL, then you can program the FreecoiL side. When you do, all you do is hit the compile button, which is that one. You go ahead and go through and build it. Builds pretty quick. Once Gradle is up and running, there you go, already finished. And from there, the file gets output. Here. Under Android, FreecoiL Kotlin, build, and then outputs. AAR, and that's the AAR file. Why an AAR file, not an APK file? Because that makes it a small module only with its dependencies, but it is still build dependent as far as target versions with Godot. But with that, it's only 58.8 kilobytes to build FreecoiL Kotlin as the module, the plugin that plugs into the Godot side. Alright, that then takes us back full circle back to to Godot 3.2.2 and our FreecoiL interface. And at that point, you're back to those scenes. You can always create new scenes to be able to embed in other scenes. Probably the simplest way. I would look at how I do the main scene, main menu, where it has a lot of the sub-scenes within. The same thing is true of the in-game scene. So if you look at in-game scene, it is the same thing, multiple scenes within the scene. And I even have like the map here is actually a scene of its own that actually is doing the map loading and putting those maps around. And other than that, it depends on what kind of feature you're working on. But basically, you would create a new scene. You do that by going scene, new scene, and you choose which type it's going to be. It's usually going to be a user interface with FreecoiL. So you choose a user interface, gives you nice control to start. I like to make reference boxes again, so that way below that, so that way I have multiple menus I can move to if I need to. And then you just start adding new things in. Adding child nodes is super simple. Just add node, say it's a control node like a button. They have lots of button choices. Just add that and it's in. Attaching a script can make it do special things. It's easy. Just going to go to attach script. You can build it in if you want or not. Your choice. If you don't build it in, it will make a separate file in the folder that you're making it in, though. So just realize that. And I am kind of a stickler for a folder organization in my projects because it helps me keep everything sane. Most of the assets and stuff are going to be in here. What do I mean by assets? I mean like fonts, images, sounds, even have themes and voices. So any of those things you're going to load up, they're all in here. Godot's super easy to go ahead and add things to. I'll show you. It's 2D. If you just drag it over here, it's going to do that. It's going to go ahead and create it, and it's going to apply that image, that texture to it. It's not showing up right this second because you need to make sure that you import it correctly, and there are a few other things, but let's see. Why are we black for some reason? Did I put the wrong thing? Nope. Browse and tell it to do. Oh, because that's not the real one. The real deer. Oh, it should be that one. See, that's an import. That won't be there. Go back to slash. Assets, images, icons. No, icons. I don't want text files. I want all files. Here.png. Oh, for some reason it doesn't like that file. You go here, import. You could re-import it to figure out what's going on, and then it'll work. So basically, sometimes Godot loses tracks of files. This does not happen often. It just happened to be an example where that was the case just now. But it's not often. When you re-import it, that's all it takes is clicking that re-import. It'll readjust it and get that texture correct. So, yeah. Back to scene. Move that back. Godot's pretty awesome. You can parent things to each other, so I use that plenty. You can see how those are parented. But adding nodes in and stuff is very easy, and there's a lot of nice pre-built-in scenes, control nodes and everything else too. All right, if you got questions, let me know.